I've noticed a growing tendency to characterize more permissive moral and political views as being inherently more tolerant, and those who hold them inherently more open-minded, while characterizing more restrictive moral and political views as being essentially intolerant, and those who hold those as being inherently close-minded. In this video, I'll argue that it's perfectly possible to hold a more restrictive view while also being tolerant and open-minded, and that it's also quite possible to hold a more permissive view while being quite intolerant and close-minded. Let's get into it. Alright, let's get right into it. What exactly is tolerance? And what exactly is open-mindedness? While dictionaries aren't always the most illuminating thing to consult in these conversations, they usually make for a good starting point. So let's begin with Merriam-Webster. The relevant definition of tolerance for our purposes is the following: sympathy or indulgence for beliefs or practices differing from or conflicting with one's own. And Merriam-Webster defines open-mindedness as follows: receptivity to arguments or ideas. These are pretty good definitions, so I'll stick with them. Notice that tolerance essentially involves beliefs or practices that differ from or even conflict with one's own. In other words, you can't truly tolerate beliefs or practices that you agree with or accept. The same goes for open-mindedness, although here the domain is exclusively beliefs and ideas. You can't truly be open-minded towards beliefs that you already share. These distinctions are crucial because a lot of people confuse tolerance and open-mindedness with agreement and acceptance. This is precisely why they often confuse disagreement with close-mindedness or intolerance, especially if the person holds a more restrictive view. For example, suppose I believe that eating meat is immoral. That's a restrictive view in the relevant sense. Does it follow that I'm intolerant of carnivores or close-minded towards arguments for eating meat? Not at all. I could tolerate their pro-meat eating beliefs as well as their practice of meat eating. I'm under no logical necessity to ban either, and I might even think that it's wrong to do so. And I might be close-minded, but I need not be. Even if I'm passionately opposed to meat eating, I might still be open to hearing arguments from the other side, even if I continue to find them utterly unpersuasive. Of course, an anti-meat eater can be intolerant or close-minded. I'm sure you've met one or two or 1,000. But the point is that there's nothing inconsistent about holding a more restrictive view while also being tolerant and open-minded. There's one important wrinkle here, however. Some positions are essentially intolerant of certain practices, namely those positions that seek to outlaw certain behaviors or illegalize certain behaviors. But even here, tolerance of opposing ideas and open-mindedness to those ideas is certainly possible. On the flip side, suppose I hold a more permissive view. For example, suppose I'm pro-gay marriage or pro-letting trans people go in the bathroom of the gender with which they identify. These are both more permissive views in the relevant sense. Does it follow that I tolerate opposing views and practices or that I'm open-minded towards them? No, not at all. I might be utterly intolerant of those who hold more traditional views of marriage and completely close-minded towards arguments for those views. You might even know one or two or many such people. Now, I might be tolerant of opposing views and practices and be open-minded towards them, but I'm under no logical necessity to be open-minded or tolerant simply because I hold a permissive view. The upshot here is that those who hold more restrictive views need not be intolerant or close-minded, and those who hold more permissive views need not be tolerant or open-minded. Such a mentality involves confusing tolerance with agreement and confusing open-mindedness with acceptance. In fact, I've noticed that folks tend to be more tolerant and open-minded towards views that they have more personal sympathy with, and they tend to be more intolerant and close-minded towards views that they already are inclined to reject or that they already find distasteful. But this betrays the very ethos of tolerance and open-mindedness. Aristotle once said, "It is the mark of an educated man to be able to entertain an idea without accepting it." Reflect on that distinction, and you'll begin to understand the true value and meaning of tolerance and open-mindedness. Well, that's all I have for you today. I should be going back to a more regular video schedule now that I've settled into Alabama and my life is going at a pretty normal schedule. I'll hopefully post every week, but it might end up being every 2 weeks once in a while. We'll see how it goes. Until next time, see ya!